Peter Tragos, who goes by the lawyer you know, has kindly agreed to join me and talk the Karen Reed case. I feel like, Peter, that I'm so deep into this that sometimes it's good to get an outside perspective and sort of talk through it with other people because this has been in my head for like 3 years. And I feel like sometimes like I'm looking at it from such a different perspective than what a juror would or someone who's been following the case. So tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am the managing partner of a firm called Tragos and Tragos down in Tampa Bay area in Florida. We do a lot of civil litigation, wrongful death, car accidents, truck accident cases, and criminal defense. And I've been following some of these different cases on YouTube over the years, and this one sticks out as one of the most volatile, one of the most where people on each side are so passionate about their side. And I think most people following it are where you are, where they're so entrenched, it's impossible for them to understand and try to realize what a juror who shouldn't know what we all know about the case, sitting there listening to it this time, not the first trial, this trial.
Right, that's another dynamic to it. This is a retrial. We have a new prosecutor, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, defense attorney, a
Mhm.
guy who represented Whitey Bulger. He's sort of changed the dynamic. What are your thoughts about his the way he's been doing things?
So I think a prosecutor, a lot of times, and we talk about it in our firm, will the prosecutor try to overtry the case? Will they put too much in? Will they just throw everything they have because the more evidence, the more witnesses are better? Usually, criminal defense attorneys want to keep it tight, only present what is necessary and who's going to give you what you need to argue in closing and to try to win this case. Same thing with on the civil side, as a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, we keep it simple, stupid, right? We don't want to bore the jury. It doesn't seem like Hank Brennan is doing that so far. He hasn't finished, he hasn't closed his case in chief, but it's definitely a lot tighter, moving a lot quicker, and he hasn't brought a lot of the witnesses that the defense ate alive in the first trial.
Jen McCabe, it's me or her. Either I'm going down, Jen, or you are.
One of the things that he's been doing, which is different from the first trial, is he's been playing clips in between witnesses. He's been sprinkling clips from the interviews that Karen Reed has done over the years. She's done a number of them. She spoke to us in a lengthy sit-down interview. How effective do you think that is for the jury? Because there's not a chance in hell she's getting on the stand, right? So,
Right.
I mean, the jury's getting to hear her in her own voice.
And that's huge in a case where the defendant does not testify. And I think the jury can think a number of things from that, right? They can think, why is she willing to talk to all these people but not willing to talk to us? They should not hold that against her. That is a principle that will be hopefully drilled into the juror's head, but they're human. So will they hold that against her? That's a question. Number two, he is, in my opinion, doing a good job weaving them into the story he's trying to tell. I think he's falling vastly short. I don't want to jump ahead, but of proving a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. But one of the things I think he's using these clips for is to try to get the jurors not to like Karen Reed personally. And when we try cases, sometimes we say the generally bad guy rule or the generally bad gal rule. I think they're trying to put in voice messages, relationship questions, what was said that night, these interview clips in a light that is negative towards Karen Reed, because then it's easier for the jurors to say, let's convict her. Not how it should be legally, but as human beings, sometimes that works.
I'm going home. I cannot babysit Amy. I need to go home. You are using me right now. You're as a girl.
And he also has been playing, or he played the voicemails she left for John O'Keefe. I think she called him 53 times that night. What does that show to you? I think when, I've asked Karen Reed about that. She says that shows a person who is desperately trying to find this guy. And if I had hit John or knew I hit John, I'm certainly not going to be blowing up his phone all night yelling at him. Do you think it's as effective as the prosecution may think it is? I mean, because they need that for, I think that's their sort of bar for the murder two charge, right? A lot of people have said this case is overcharged. And I think that's sort of my understanding how they got to murder two, listening to those voicemail messages, and now they're being played for the jury.
To me, it's crazy to be charged for murder too with this case, with this evidence that they have. To me, those voice messages cross that off immediately. She didn't have any ill intent to try to hit him that night or do something that would injure him that night, or leave him there to die and know that he was. Those voice messages to me are the worst evidence for a murder two charge. She does not know that she hit him if she hit him. If they can prove she hit him, those voice messages to me show it had to be in some sort of negligence. But If the prosecution is trying to use them to prove Karen Reed says ugly words and is a bad girlfriend and is mean to John O'Keefe, well, then they may be effective for that.
She repeated, I hit him. I hit him.
But how do you remember she made those statements?
I won't ever forget those statements.
Because that's the thing about this case, right? On the surface, let's say you look at some of like the initial facts. You have damage to her taillight. You have all these first responders saying, I hit him, or did I hit, saying that she said that. So on the surface, the prosecution, may think, hey, we have this open and shut case. But all you have to do is peel back, like, I'm not talking about peeling back layers. You peel back one sort of layer and you get there. And I think that's what everyone who talks to me about this case says, once you start peeling back those layers, it's like, wait, there's so many strange things that just don't seem to add up and make sense. And do you think that the defense has been able to actually get the jury to really understand? I mean, obviously, when you look at time discrepancies on certain things, or the fact that these butt dials were made, but do you think the jury, after, sitting in that box, like, do you think they're making that connection?
Well, if you listen to some of the jurors from the first trial, they were going with a simplistic approach, some of them, especially the ones that thought she was guilty of some lesser included crime. She was there, he was there, the Lexus was there, everybody was drinking, the taillight's broken, so she must have committed some kind of crime. So if you go for something simplistic like that, and even one of the clips played by Karen Reed, she said something like that, then I think maybe you get a jury there. But that's not supposed to be how the criminal justice system works. And the first trial, I thought the prosecutors were more transparent about everything, what everybody said, saw, and went through, during those days. And the defense was able to peel back those layers and make it readily apparent to everybody watching the issues and things that could not possibly be a coincidence in this case. But because the prosecutors have put less up there so far, the defense has not been as effective as showing just how crazy all of this is and how impossible that this was to go the way the prosecution is trying to say it went. And we know the defense has more experts they're bringing this trial than the first trial. And I think the prosecutors are saying, go ahead, have at all of the clunky, confusing testimony that doesn't make any sense. You can do that in your case in chief. And I think the defense has to, for the reason you just said, they got to peel back those layers so the jury can see just how wild this set of events was.
As law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you inform them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Speaking about peeling back the layers, Jen McCabe, who is a huge player in this case, 3 days on the stand. One thing new that we found out, and I don't know how, obviously the defense tried to make it look very nefarious. I mean, a lawyer, as a lawyer, you're going to tell your clients not to talk, to investigators. But she said that the FBI showed up at her house, right? We didn't know that. I know that she had testified to the federal grand jury, but she made a number of phone calls, which I guess that she wasn't honest about all the people she called. And I guess 10 minutes into the interview, she said, you know what? I'm done talking. Is that an inference that the jury will make? That obviously they just know that agents, because the defense has been prohibited from directly saying that the FBI was involved and investigated this case. But I think they probably have a pretty good idea. There's only, agents. Last time the jury thought it was an insurance investigation. So let's see if they get it this time. But how damaging do you think that was for Jen McCabe?
So, and you made the right point right off the bat. Like, there's nothing wrong with calling a lawyer if agents, cops, anybody shows up to your house, whether you're a witness, whether you're somebody that's under investigation, whether you're a criminal defendant. That's the right thing to do. That's what I would advise everybody to do. But the way that she did it and what she told these federal agents, oh, just give me a minute, to make it seem like she had to, put some clothes on or brush her teeth, like she said. Yeah. Instead, she makes all these frantic phone calls to a very interesting set of people. And then she starts talking to them after talking to those people. And then she cuts it off. As if, if she would have just called her lawyer showed up and they did an interview, that would have been way more normal. And what you should do if you're a witness in a case and you want to help get justice for your friend. So to me, it's definitely something I would side eye as a juror. But I think more importantly, what you've already said, it is a piece to peeling back the layers. It is one of the layers. It's probably not enough on its own to think something strange is going on with Jen McCabe. They need the other context, which they're getting through some other witnesses, to show this jury just how strange these circumstances are.
Yeah, the 7 butt dials that she made to John
no voicemails.
Yeah, and I think that is certainly that's always those are always the things that was always one of the things that I've always had questions about, where the butt dials either from Jen McCabe to John's phone or from Brian Albert and Brian Higgins back and forth, somewhere in the 2 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, they're going to get to that. Moving on, we haven't seen Michael Proctor yet. You think the prosecution will call Proctor, now fired state trooper, or do you think he'll come in through the defense?
So they're calling him Mr. Proctor as they do the direct examination of Yuri Buchanan right now. The way that they're asking questions to Trooper Buchanan, which is happening right now as we're speaking, it doesn't sound like they're going to call Proctor, because they're basically saying, where was Proctor standing when the taillight was there? What did Proctor do? Who did Proctor talk to? And Buchanan's like, oh, we're a team. Yeah, there's a lead investigator. Fine. I actually got the first call. I called Proctor. So he's taking ownership of this investigation, even though we know he's not going to be able to fully take it. And I feel like Hank Brennan might just completely act like Proctor doesn't exist. I think that would be a wild move. I think it would be a mistake. I think the defense will absolutely call him in their case in chief. And I think the judge really should not limit what they use on him, how they question him. He's obviously a hostile witness. To me, they should be able to use a very robust set of questioning, as Judge Cannoni's like to use in this case.
Because no matter what, Jackson will call him, right?
I mean, I don't want to say no matter what, it's not my case. I would. It would not be a question. You have to call him, because it's not enough. In some cases, defense attorneys hint this stuff and they're like, oh, they don't want to call this guy. And then when they don't, you say, see, we told you they didn't want to call this guy, and it's not as bad as it may seem. With Proctor, it's worse than the jury's thinking. So I feel like you have to call him if you're the defense.
Moving forward, the judge says that, things appear to be on schedule. We had so many half days and days off during the last trial. That's not happening. They're powering through probably only a couple more weeks of witness testimony. Can you handicap it at all from what you've seen so far?
It's really hard. I mean, I still think 6 weeks is probably a good bet, but because I know the defense is going to have more. I think we are going to have a day or two here and there where we're going to have to miss or something's going to happen. But Hank Brennan is moving quickly. And I don't think anybody knows really how short the Commonwealth's case in chief is going to be. I also want everybody to remember the Commonwealth has the opportunity to give a rebuttal case. I think they will take that opportunity in this case as well.
As I'm walking down, I hear Karen Reed yell, Peg, is he dead? Is he dead, Peg? Peg, is he dead? I asked her what happened, and she said, we went to a party. I left him there. I said, you just left him there?
And I do want to bring up, before we go, Peggy O'Keefe. We did not see, that's John's mom. We did not see her in the first trial. And I don't think anyone can be human and not feel bad for the suffering that she's gone through, losing, not just John, but other children. And I really got the impression from her testimony that she does not like Karen Reed. And then that began almost the first, the initial morning when they saw each other at the hospital. John had been taken to Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton. Karen was taken there a short time later for this psych evaluation. And, Peggy said that, Karen said something to her down the hall. And I think Peggy just, kept walking. That there was always this sort of animosity that she believed at the time that, hey, Karen did this to my son.
And if there was any question about it, the clip they played about Karen Reed, I think confirmed it. And Karen Reed even knew how Peggy felt about her. I'm 100% with you. I think she was a great decision and call by the prosecutor. You want the jury to sit there and want to bring justice for this victim. If you're a prosecutor, I think they accomplished that goal. I think it goes a lot more along in the lines of what they're doing, pulling at the heartstrings of the jury, because I think it did absolutely nothing to prove what actually happened that night. It did absolutely nothing to prove a crime occurred, that this was not some kind of accident, a trip and fall, a fall inside the house, a fight, or hit by a car or a snowplow or whatever. Her testimony did nothing to prove or disprove anything important in this case other than humanize John O'Keefe, let the jury know how important this is and how a life was taken, that life matters, and we need to get to the bottom of it and figure out what happened and get justice for that victim.
And how important you think it is that, Karen Reed her lawyers are gagged from speaking, so is the prosecution. And, I'm there every day at, 4:15 when she walks out of court. And the last couple of days, she hasn't said much, but, there are times she will comment.
I know Jen McCabe said she was only concerned with doing what was best to help John O'Keefe. And the best thing for John O'Keefe at 6:04 in the morning was to get a first responder to him immediately.
How strange! What universe in the in the defense, in a trial as big as this is? Have you ever seen that? It almost feels like that she wants to make sure she has the final say.
So I obviously don't know Karen Reed personally. I've never spoken to her, but the defense team says she's competent, intelligent. They trust her. She's involved. So I think more than most clients in most criminal cases, they're trusting her to make these public comments. I think it's dangerous. I think she needs to be careful. I think those comments could also be something that Brennan should be fair game for Brennan to use in trial if he wanted to, even though they're late notice because they're happening right now. She knows that that's a risk, obviously, with the clips being played. But publicity in this case and the public push behind Karen Reed and the free Karen Reed movement has been such a big part of this defense, has been something that I think they think has helped her case, has helped her cause. So they're going to continue to lean into it. They understand there are risks, but they've balanced them and think the rewards outweigh the risks.
Yeah, I mean, I have spoken to her. She's very analytical, and I feel that, she does make a lot of the decisions when it comes to how, the strategy works in this trial. Peter Tragos goes by the lawyer. I know a lot of people in Massachusetts have come up to me, and they do watch the trial with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me, and hopefully we can maybe do this again. And thank you very much for spending a little time with us here at Boston 25 this morning.
Hey, I really appreciate having me, and your Twitter is key for me. I need it. It helps me. There's so many things going on in there, and it's something I trust, right? Because I don't think you're going to be one of these that just says something off the wall that I got to be like, I'm not so sure about that. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much for your time, and it was good to talk to you.
You too.